Message from Starfleet Command, top priority.
You are listening to the TrekRanks podcast, a member of the Tricorder Transmissions Podcast Network. This is episode 112, featuring the top 5 one-off Klingons. Kapla, Star Trek fans. I am Jim Moorhouse. I'm the host of the TrekRanks podcast, and tonight we're going to be working on our Klingonese with an awesome topic that I could not be more excited about. This is a TrekRanks Deep Cut Spectacular. We're doing our one-off Klingon characters, and we'll get into that topic and defining exactly how we're going to do that in a minute here in our diagnostic cycle. But first, Klingmak taHjaj. Tonight, we remain Klingon with our two amazing guests. Yes, I'm going to be speaking Klingon throughout the whole show. First up tonight, one of our favorites, returning for her 8th appearance on TrekRanks, podcaster extraordinaire. It's Charlynn Schmiedt. Charlynn.
Hi. Thank you for having me back yet again. It's the 8th time already. That's amazing.
8th time. Somebody work out those percentages. We love having her on. Going to talk Klingons tonight, and our second guest returning for his 3rd appearance on TrekRanks. It is Mr. Daniel Martin, who we are honored to have on this episode, because I'm telling you, this guy knows his Klingons. He's an expert. Welcome back, Dan.
Thank you so much, Jim. I always say it's an honor to be here, but this, today the operative word is honor, and I will try to not dishonor myself and everyone else with my picks. So thank you so much.
Well said. And I like to tell this story to people when I'm talking about you, Daniel. I guess it was STLV. Was it 2019, 2018?
2019. No, 2019. Yeah.
And there was a panel, and we had connected a little bit on Twitter, and I knew you were giving a panel on Klingons, and I was thinking, man, I kind of know everything I need to know about Klingons. I don't think I'm probably going to miss that panel. But then I ended up, the timing worked, and I went to, oh my God, it was like the best panel. I learned so much about Klingons, the way you presented it. I know you're a teacher in the Korea Republic where you live, and I'm telling you, it was really, really good, and I learned a lot, and it gave me a new appreciation for Klingon. So,
thank you. I really appreciate the kind words. That was probably the highlight of my entire career, to be able to give an academic lecture about my research into Klingons at the world's greatest Star Trek convention. It was, it's never going to get better than that. So
I'm telling you,
I'm still riding that high 2 years later.
Hey, as you should be. That's very cool. I didn't know I was talking with an expert in Klingons here. Okay, I'm really out of my depth, but
no,
but that's good.
No.
See, we're going to have a whole mix.
It's great. Yes, I'm going to learn so much from you, Daniel. This is awesome.
Yeah, this is going to be awesome. All right, let's get into our TrekRanks recalibration.
Let's start with something small, like a recalibration of the EPS manifolds.
As regular listeners will know by now, general order number 1 of the TrekRanks charters that we love Trek, and we love to rank Trek via some deep dive topics just to get the conversation started. And remember, it's not about the ranks. That's just our excuse to talk about Star Trek. And as our good friend, the Vulcan Master, likes to remind us each week, the main driver for all of our discussion here at TrekRanks is
infinite diversity.
Infinite combinations.
No wrong answers. It's not about being right or definitive in any way. It's just about sharing the things we love about Trek. From TOS to TNG, straight through to Enterprise and the Kelvin timeline. We love it all, from Discovery, Short Treks, Picard, Lower Decks. It's all fair game here on the TrekRanks podcast.
Black alert. Black alert.
And a reminder that this episode of TrekRanks is current through 801 episodes of Star Trek, which currently is translates through the 3rd season of Star Trek Discovery. And one final reminder that we use episodes as a shorthand term, but the 13 films are always in play as well. And there are certainly a handful of one-off Klingons for the films that could be making appearances tonight.
Oh, there sure are.
For sure.
Have boosted power to the communications bandwidth.
We appreciate that, Mr. Kim, and you can find TrekRanks on Subspace at TrekRanks.com. You can contact me directly on Twitter at TrekRanks or at Enterprise Extra. You can also call and leave us a message with your own picks at 609-512-LLAP. That's 609-512-5527. Okay, so to wrap it up, Shar and Daniel, let everybody know how they can get a hold of you on Subspace. Shar.
All right. Well, a couple of ways you can contact me. It's mostly through Twitter. Most people know my handle, Ode Profanity, but I've launched a new account as well, where I focus more on things I'm learning in the world of web design. I had my kind of mid-career crisis, and I'm relaunching a new career, essentially. And it's all about the things that I'm learning and doing and having fun with and sharing on there. So if you're interested in coding or how the web works or anything even kind of related to that, check that out. It's called Shar Writes Code, Shar with a C.
Okay. Insta follow. I will be following. I have somehow missed that. I've been traveling a lot and not keeping up on Twitter. So I'm excited about that. Daniel, how about you, man?
I'm also pretty much exclusively on Twitter at DRDSM, and I have not yet had my midlife reboot where I completely changed tracks. So that will be coming soon, I'm sure.
I'm going to have that, and it's going to be called Retirement. So,
ooh, that'll be a good one.
I hope.
I can't wait. I can't wait.
We'll see if we can ever pull that off. Okay. Let's get into our level 1 diagnostic to get into this show.
Run a level 1 diagnostic series. Come.
So really quick, this is technically the 4th time we've done a one-off topic. We've previously done one-off villains, one-off heroes, and Shar, you were on one-off romances, which I didn't even realize till I was putting my notes together. So, and that was like episode 29. So it's been a while since we've done a topic, and I'm glad that we came up with this angle to do some more one-off stuff. We have a few more ideas for one-off topics on our long list, but I'm going to put out a call. If anyone has any other ideas for one-off topics, let me know, because I think this is a fun way to deep dive into Trek, and not all of them really work, but this one I think is going to be cool. This is our second ever Klingon-focused topic. We did top 5 Klingon episodes way back on episode 10 to begin our alien species series of episodes. And now we're going to revisit them again with our one-off Klingon characters. And I said this when we previewed this topic at the end of our last episode. Obviously, it's TrekRanks, so you guys can do whatever you want. Cheating is welcome. But sometimes picking one-off topics can get a little tricky on where or not they were actually one-off characters. So if any characters get picked who actually appeared in more than one episode or more than one two-parter, obviously two-parters is good, you're going to be hit by a old school TOS Klingon disruptor. So you've been warned. Okay, I'm very excited about this topic. We will see what everyone comes up with. Let's get into our Prime Directive right now.
But what you're proposing is exactly the kind of tampering the Prime Directive prohibits.
Okay, so Shar, let's start with you. I'm dying to hear how both you guys broke this down. So what do you generally think of Klingons, and how did that kind of play into you defining your one-off Klingons?
Okay, here we go. Well, when you proposed this topic to me, I read the phrase one-off Klingons, and initially I thought, Klingons. I'm not the biggest fan of Klingons. I'm so sorry, Dan.
What am I hearing?
I know.
I love it.
I know. They are not my favorite.
Just because they're not your favorite doesn't mean you don't love them or don't still have appreciation.
Yeah, of course. They're a part of Star Trek lore. They're important.
Exactly.
Yes, yeah. And Dan, I'm sure just by hearing you talk, you're going to give me a whole new appreciation for Klingons. So this might be very enlightening, actually. You might reinvigorate my interest in Klingons. But the idea of one-offs, I immediately started just spinning through the gears of my head, thinking of possibilities and realizing, gosh, just even if I went through the movies, I could list 5. But I wanted to go deeper. I wanted to do some research and really do some homework. And I had a really good time with the TrekRanks homework for this one. Here's my theme is I went with one-off Klingons who made an impact somehow.
Okay, I love it. We love a good theme.
Cool. Yeah, that's cool.
This is fantastic. And yeah, everybo's got their different favorites. And the one thing about Klingons I've always said, and Char, we talked about this a little bit on DM, but they're so prevalent that I kind of get it if people kind of move past them to the next alien that they get excited about. So I think that's kind of what happens a little bit with.
Yeah, I get that with the Borg on Voyager, especially.
Same thing with the Borg. Totally understand it. Okay, Daniel, how about you? How'd you break it down?
Okay, so you can imagine this was quite overwhelming for me because I hope you've allocated about 25 minutes for my secondary systems at the end because this was my long list was really long. But I started to think about, I guess what fascinates me about the Klingons is this question of like representation from the original series through Discovery. When we see Klingons, they mean something, right? There's some deeper level to the episode. There's a sense that this is really commenting on something in society or politics or history. And so that's the thing that really has always, fascinated me about the Klingons. And a lot of Trek series, when they show an alien species, they tend to be quite monocultural. And I think it's something that the writers themselves have worked very hard to correct. But they often boil down to a series of stereotypes. And I love characters that break stereotypes. So let me completely, digress and talk about my favorite Ferengi character, who is Lek. You know that Ferengi assassin?
Yes.
It's so valuable to see a Ferengi who doesn't care about Latinum, who doesn't care about profit, who just wants to kill. Yep. It's a gag character, but a really good way to show the nuance of the culture. And so I love Klingons who do that. I love Klingons who break the mold, who defy expectations. And so a lot of my list is derived from that idea of where is a Klingon doing something that maybe shows us that Klingon society is not all the same thing. So that was really what drove a lot of my choices. And it was tough. It was fun. There are a lot of Klingons who have appeared like exactly twice.
Right.
I mean, especially like DS9 brought back a lot of one-off Klingons.
Yes, so many to disqualify.
So that's basically my concept. But there may be some outrageous cheating in the soup round. Well, your finger will be hovering with uncertainty over that sound effect. I think
over that the Klingon disruptor.
Yeah.
So, if this was 2 off Klingons, then everybody's number one would be Groka. We all know that.
Of course.
So that's without question. So, I hope everybody's ready for some fun learning because we are going to be learning some stuff from Daniel. I love this.
Okay. Let's go.
The pressure's on now. My goodness.
This is great. All right. My Prime Directive was absolutely a straight up brainstorm on characters that just have always kind of stood out for me and that I knew this would be really a good opportunity to highlight them and maybe talk about them, and I haven't been able to before on TrekRanks. So there's really no major theme. I'd say it's really just a deep dive of 5 characters that I really, really like and wanted to take advantage of this topic to celebrate them. Having said that, as I dove into this topic, I realized there were definitely a couple of interesting ways to maybe look at some potential choices and entertained a few that are probably going to maybe challenge the limits of this topic, aka cheating. So I might be firing those pagers at myself, but we'll see. Wow. Okay, and there's some of those are going to be on the secondary systems for sure. Going to be a lot of deep cuts tonight. All right, let's do this. First, Cadet Catan, introduce us to the order of things.
It'll be alphas like us that determine the future of this quadrant. That will be the new order of things.
Thank you, First Cadet Catan. And as always, just a quick reminder on how we're going to go through the order of things. First, everyone will start with their 5-word summary and a hashtag to tease their pick. Then we'll each reveal our one-off Klingon character and the specific reasons we're highlighting that character in the episode in which they appeared. And at the end, we'll ask everyone for a few secondary system selections for the picks that just missed our lists. And as always, if we have any duplicate picks, make sure you listen for the Defiant Torpedoes. Okay, Shar, we're going to kick it off with you. What's your number 5 pick for your top 5 one-off Klingons?
Okay. My 5 words are, for this one, trashing Tuvok's quarters with Neelix. Hashtag torrid affair. Yes. This is the character Chirega in the Voyager episode Prophecy.
So good. Yes.
Such a good choice. I love it.
You know what? I love this character. I've always enjoyed watching this episode, particularly for one scene. This is why she made an impact, because she is responsible for the scene where Tuvok comes to his quarters to find it absolutely trashed after she and Neelix have had a very wild time. And she's just nothing but just so happy and proud of herself. And why not? She's probably been bored aboard this Klingon ship for so long, had herself a good time, and that was about it. And yeah, good for her. Neelix has always had an interesting rapport with Klingons. He was totally into it. And so I'm glad they just mutually took advantage of geographic convenience, I guess, and made the most of it.
R.I.P. Tuvok's quarters. That's all.
That would have been the better hashtag.
Yes. I love what is her? I can't remember her name. It's Chirega? Chirega. Fantastic. I definitely thought of her and some other characters from Prophecy. I mean, she is memorable. There's no doubt about that. It's a fantastic little tweak in a pretty great episode of Voyager. Daniel, what's your take?
Yeah, I'm full of admiration for that as your first pick. It's a great pick. I love the character. I love the episode. I mean, deeply love it. And I think one of the things that really interests me about that connection between those characters is it really demonstrates that Neelix is kind of this very smart cultural ambassador.
Captain, you must try that car.
I'll pass, thank you. But I'm glad to see you're getting into the spirit of things.
Well, I've been studying the Klingon database. They're a fascinating people, very robust. And they certainly seem to appreciate my culinary skills.
It looks like everything's running smoothly.
Because Chirega, she goes after Harry Kim first, right?
Oh,
yes.
And then Neelix is like, that's not how you woo a Klingon woman. I'll show you how it's done. And he like bashes in with his, Klingon machismo. And he knows how to seduce a Klingon. And so he's done his research, I think. This is what a morale officer should be doing, I think. So this is definitely Neelix at his best.
It's fantastic. So no Tom Paris picks as a Klingon warrior in this episode.
Not from me.
Nope. Okay. All right, let's go. Daniel, what's your number 5 pick?
Okay, 5 words and a hashtag. Dastardly, duplicitous time travel tinkerer. Hashtag. Is that Vaughn Armstrong? This is Korath from the Voyager series finale, Endgame.
Wow.
This is not the most memorable character. This is, old Janeway in the future needs to illegally acquire a time travel device. And the grown-up Miral Paris connects her with the Klingon, Korath, the head of his own house. He's this politically ambitious genius inventor of questionable honor. But I've always found him fascinating. When we first meet him, he's proudly tinkering with this Cardassian disruptor. And he's really like, a genius inventor, a brilliant scientist of the kind we haven't really seen within the Klingon Empire before. And he's made this deal with Janeway where she will get him a seat on the High Council if he gives her a stable, reliable, precise device that will allow her to travel both back in time and to the Delta Quadrant. So this is really impressive technology. And I've always just thought he was so cool. He's got his own like Nagar class battle cruiser. And I loved, again, the breaking of the stereotype. It's a Klingon genius who's pushing time travel technology forward. And the thing that really bugged me was, even, when the episode aired at the time, I remember reading reviews and comments online that were really sarcastic about him and snarky, like, oh, really? It's a Klingon who invented time travel? Come on, that's not plausible. And now, look where we are now, 20 years later, This all irrefutably makes sense. Because in season 2 of Discovery, we learned that the Klingons are the sole custodians of time crystals in the entire galaxy. So actually, bang, of course, it would be a Klingon scientist who would create stable time travel. Of course it would. So basically, my love for this character has only deepened, and he's kind of now become emblematic for me of the beautiful way the Trek franchise is constantly building lore and deepening its connections between its different stories. So yeah, that's my pick.
I love this pick. He's definitely on my secondary systems for a bunch of reasons. Love Von Armstrong. But Char, let's hear your take.
Well, excuse me for just 1 minute. I need to add somebody to secondary systems real quick. What an excellent pick. That's a deep cut, but so freaking good for all of the reasons that you stated here. One thing that definitely occurred to me while making my list is Klingon scientists need to be more of a thing. And so I'm so glad that you're putting this out here and saying, hey, look, they are out there.
And I love the fact that he's also not very honorable.
Yeah.
It's like,
it doesn't care.
Yeah, he doesn't really care about that side of things. Okay, so do you guys know the backstory of this character? Because I'm not going to fire the disruptors because technically he is a one-off Klingon. But this character originated at Star Trek The Experience.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Von Armstrong's character Korath is the Klingon that, again, time travel goes back to the whole premise of The Experience is that you're all on this ship and you've been whisked there from the past into the future because one of you is Jean-Luc Picard's ancestor, and Korath is trying to kidnap you to erase Jean-Luc Picard from the timeline. And it's Von Armstrong playing this character, and then they brought him back from The Experience to appear as Korath in Endgame, and I absolutely freaking love that they did that. So I definitely considered picking him.
Wow, that's an even deeper cut.
I know, it's incredible. and then you said it before, Daniel, the tie-in to what Discovery did with the time crystals makes it even better. And so now let's go to my number 5 pick. I can't believe I've been making a big deal about really holding true to one-off appearances. And then with my very first pick, I'm breaking the rules, but I'm doing it. 5 words in a hashtag. Pillar of Klingon past, present. Hashtag grandson of none. It is Tenavik from Through the Valley of the Shadows.
Such a good character.
Through the Valley of Shadows. And really, so the time crystal thing, I'm so glad you picked Korath right here because this is really connects right into it. The main reason I'm picking is this incredible performance by, Kenneth Mitchell, who's just so dynamic. He's just such a beautiful actor and human being. And I will say, the reason this pick doesn't count is technically we saw Tenavik as a baby in Point of Light.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, that's why I didn't include him.
A decapitated baby, in fact.
Yep. So I'm terrible. I'm breaking the rules, but I had to do it. He's the son of None, son of Volk and L'Rell, and it just kind of blows me away how impactful this character was. And just, a few scenes of Discovery and what he means to Trek, and then also just the way people reacted to this character was really, really impressive. And he plays such a pivotal role for Captain Pike, this story that we're now going to get to see unfold, 50 years in the making with Pike's backstory. And now we're going to see it in Strange New World. And who's right at the center of it? It's Tenavik standing there watching him realize this trauma is what he's going to have to face in his life. And he says to him that, he explains to him clearly what he's about to go through, and at the end he says, "I honor you, Captain, for the choices you're making." It's really, really, really impressive. He's a really unique Klingon, really cool performance. Kenneth Mitchell, amazing, also amazing as Cole and Coleshaw. So sorry, fire those phasers at myself because I had to pick him. Daniel, what's your take on Tenavik?
That's a really good choice. Obviously I didn't want to break the rules quite so egregiously. So I didn't put him on my list, but I did consider him because I think, spiritually, this is a one-off character, really. It's a technicality that he's not quite a one-off, but he's a great character. I agree with everything you said for what that character means to Pike, for Kenneth Mitchell's performance, because before this, he'd only really played, aggressive Klingon assholes, right? And this is him being an intellectual, a very sensitive, spiritual Klingon, which is really good, I think, to demonstrate the range he has.
What do I call you?
My name is Tenavik. Though when I first arrived at the monastery, I was without name,
Son of none. I know another Klingon with that same epithet.
He was my father.
But from my understanding, your father brought you to Boreth only a few months ago, when you're an infant. Forgive me, but how are you possible?
Time flows differently for those who protect the crystals. The past, the present, the future are all equal in their presence.
This is a complete digression, but one thing, when I was watching this episode for the first time, and it's like, you know, L'Rell and Tyler's baby is suddenly an adult because he's been exposed to the time crystals. I swear to you, I shouted at the screen, Alexander, because it had always bugged me, Alexander's accelerated aging. When Alexander shows up in TNG, he should be like a year and a half old. He's like 8. When he's in DS9, he's like a teenager. He should be like 11. He's obviously just been on Boreth for the spells of time. That like explains it all now. He's taken a couple of field trips. That's why he's older than he should be. And that's so. I'm sorry, my brain works this way, but yeah, it's every Klingon has to make sense, and this does that, and I love it for that reason.
That's a great retcon. I love it. Char, what's your take on Tanovic?
Oh man, what a beautiful character. I wanted so bad to put him on this list, but didn't, because I thought, no, you know what though? If you're going to turn the phasers on yourself, this is the pick to do it for.
Yeah.
Not going to judge, Jim, because I might have broken the rules on one of these myself.
I hope you guys did, because I feel guilty already doing it so quickly.
Yeah, I'll let you be the judge when we get to that pick. See what you guys think, if I cheated or not.
This is not the only time I break the rules.
Oh, naughty, Jim.
But in a different way. Okay, let's go on to round 4. Char, what's your number 4 pick?
Okay, 5 words are: Klingon cruisers easily get eaten. #evasive. This is the captain of the Klingon ship. Is it Amar or Amar in Star Trek: The Motion Picture? Played by Mark Leonard.
Mark Leonard, yes. I love it. I
had to pick him because he's played by Mark Leonard, aka Sarek, and it's the first time we see like the more prominent ridges on the Klingon makeup, so it's memorable for that reason as well. And I don't even think this captain has a name. Doesn't matter. He was the very first thing we saw in the Star Trek movie universe as a character. Yep. So he made an impact.
I love this pick. I am so excited. I definitely thought about it because of just what it means. It just changed everything. And it's Mark Leonard. I mean, he's just such a legend. He's such a legendary part of Star Trek. I am so excited you picked this. The ship is the Amar, right? Yeah. I'm pretty
It's Amar, not Amar. Okay, yeah. I wasn't sure.
It's one of those two. Daniel, what's your take on this one?
This is such a good pick. Shah, you are putting me to shame. Like, you know, Jim introduces me as the Klingon expert. And you're like, I don't really like Klingons. And you're just absolutely killing it with these picks. This is such a good pick.
Thank you, but no. I got nothing on you, man.
This is a great pick. And you know, if you're talking about iconic moments of impact, this is such a good choice. I mean, also you get paired with the visual, one of the greatest compositions of Star Trek music ever, that Klingon theme.
Yes.
That has been so good, powerful. And yeah, you know, again, he's not really a character in the sense that we don't know his motives. He doesn't say anything really, but absolutely iconic and a really, really massive, you know, quantum leap forward in the evolution of Klingons on screen. So that's a superb pick, I think.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you said that about the theme, because the thing about that theme is that's 1979. They've been using it ever since, and it always sounds fresh. It always sounds current. It's an incredible piece of work. I also love this pick because it's a little bit of a connection with my number 4 pick. So super excited. All right, Daniel, what's your number 4 pick?
Okay. Paranoid peacemaker advocates against aggression. #first female Klingon. This is Mara, science officer and Kang's wife from the original series episode The Day of the Dove.
Another legend.
Wonderful.
I've always loved this episode. It's one of the all-time great TOS stories. It's a profound, you know, theme about, you know, the way propaganda shapes our perceptions of our enemies. and that we view the foreign as this kind of fearful thing, and we shouldn't. So, you have Kang's crew and then the Enterprise crew. They each believe the other to have committed these terrible war crimes. They're actually being influenced by this one of these classic TOS micro-budget energy beings. It's just this kind of swirling blob on the screen. So it's a story of conflict resolution, but I think in that story, the most interesting character is Mara. She's intelligent. She's got a sharp strategic mind. She's got a deep knowledge. When the Klingons take control of engineering, she's the one who's able to take control of the ship-wide life support systems, which effectively means they're going to win, if not for the intervention of this alien. She's also, I think, the first Klingon character in Trek that we actually sympathize with unreservedly. That moment when Chekhov is kind of crazed and he starts assaulting her. In that moment, we completely sympathize with her. She's the one who our empathy is with. Chekhov's the bad guy in that situation. And it's a tiny moment, but that hadn't happened before in Trek, where, the human was the bad guy and the Klingon was the one that we were sort of supportive of. And, she's then kind of with Kirk and Spock. She doesn't believe the story about the alien entity, but she's above all a scientist. The evidence compels her. She's rational. She's smart. She gradually comes to understand that everything she thinks about the Federation is wrong, that they're not, these torturers who run death camps. And she's the conduit, the advocate, the peacemaker, putting an end to the conflict. She tells Kirk, I will add my voice to yours in trying to get Kang to, put the weapons down. And it's because of her that the crews of both ships are saved. So, there's a very long line of brilliant, iconic Klingon women. And she's not just the first, but I think also one of the most important.
I love this pick. She's the science officer. You said it so well. She's so smart. She's like in charge of like everything when they're in engineering. She's like you said, she's deciding kind of how they're going to reroute power and try to not only the control life support, but the ship's propulsion systems. And then the thing I love too, because great point about the juxtaposition of her being sympathetic when Chekhov's attacking her. She's so Klingon. She's like 100%. She actually says at one point, I am Klingon, which is like, that's the refrain we've heard, remain Klingon.
Yeah.
We are Klingon. You've heard that throughout 55 years of Trek. And she says it in this episode to Kang when he's doubting her and she's trying to explain to him. She's like, I am Klingon, but this is what I'm seeing happening.
I am your wife. I'm a Klingon. I lie for them. Listen to Kirk. He is telling the truth.
And then there's a moment where she kind of defines what the Klingons are about the Empire, right? She talks about them expanding their empire and that they kind of have to expand because it's
the reference to poverty. They have poorer worlds. They have to expand or they will die. It's really meaningful. Yeah,
it's a kind of unbelievable world building taking place in the third season of TOS that has kind of lasted to this day. So I love Mara, amazing character.
So this was no trick.
It's the alien that's done this. We're in its power. Our people and yours.
We only wanted to stop the fighting to save us all.
We have always fought. We must. We are hunters, Captain. Tracking and taking what we need. There are poor planets in the Klingon systems. We must push outward if we are to survive.
There's another way to survive. Mutual trust and help.
I will help you now.
How?
I will take you to Kang. I will add my voice to yours.
Char, what's your take?
Once again, I am in awe of your pick, Dan. And I didn't think about it. And it's so good. I didn't even realize that she was the very first Klingon female that we saw. But what a way to make a statement about it, too. She's so smart and she is Klingon, but she goes about her business of being a Klingon in a very different way beyond the stereotype of just honor and aggression and conquering through the fight. She's much more strategic and she uses her brain and is much more of a strategist. And I love this so much.
Yeah, she's
so good.
She's a huge world building character for sure.
Yes.
Love it. Okay, let's go to my round 4 pick. 5 words and a hashtag. Klingons by blood and choice. Hashtag time is their enemy. And it is Brota, Peral, and the Sons of Moog from Deep Space Nine's Children of Time on planet Gaia. I love
so good.
These Klingons. I love these Klingons. They're Worf descendants, and they're just so cool. I've always remembered them from this episode because it's really one of the strengths of the of kind of all the threads being explored in Children of Time. And the thought that Worf and the Klingons are so revered 200 years later, I just always love that. The way this guy, Brota, just has this reverence for Worf, and is the actor, the way he delivers his lines are just so stoic and Klingon, from telling the stories to trying to live their lives like Worf. They tell him, and then they even ask Worf to kill them so they can have an honorable death, ceasing to exist because my parents were never born. That is not a death worthy of Sto-Vo-Kor. Kill me, Worf. I have no enemies to fight, no glory to be won. Give me an honorable death. I love these 2 Klingons. There's like 3 of them, but only 2 have names.
It is a great honor to know that my legacy has thrived on your world for so long. I can see the Klingon heart beats strong here.
You honor us with your words. We have tried to live as you taught us to.
We've never plowed fields or milked cattle. We've lived as warriors. Hunters.
Last year, I slew a Yarbear 3 meters tall. Your mek'leth was my only weapon. The beast maimed me, and for a time it seemed I would die from my wounds. Now I wish I had. It would have been a warrior's death.
He could have taken his place among the honored dead in Sto-Vo-Kor.
Perhaps he will yet.
No. Ceasing to exist because my parents were never born, that is not a death worthy of Sto-Vo-Kor. Kill me, Worf. I have no enemies to fight, no glory to be won. Give me an honorable death.
Don't make us wait for the end like farm animals waiting for slaughter.
I will come to you tomorrow and do what you ask.
Yeah, I just, and then the fact that it kind of hit me that, this guy's also probably a descendant of Dax from Trill too. So I love their look. So that's what I was going to say before. You mentioned that Mark Leonard's the first Klingon with ridges. Well, this is the first Klingon without ridges that we've seen since basically Mark Leonard, outside of Trials and Tribulations. He looks just like Kor. He looks like John Colicos himself with his kind of facial hair and the way he holds himself, and really, really cool. I love this episode. I love these Klingons. I definitely thought of this one as One-Off Klingons when this topic came up. Shar, what's your take on this?
I knew there were one-off Klingons in DS9. There's way too many Klingons in DS9 for there not to be. But I kept thinking of options that ultimately didn't work because they were in more than one episode. And so I'm so glad you found one, Jim, so we could talk about it. Yeah. This is a great, great pick from a good episode too.
I mean, it's a super fun episode and it builds on the Klingon world. Daniel, what's your take on it?
I'm so just speechless with delight. This is such a great pick that would never have ever occurred to me. I would just get completely blanked on it when I think of One-Off Klingons. That's such, because again, it's not just a Klingon character. It's a different way of defining Klingon identity, and it interrogates what is central to Klingon identity. It's not biology. It's, a code of beliefs. That's such a good pick. I really, really love that pick.
Yeah, it's really cool the way they talk about Klingon lore and just how they've kind of molded it themselves in that world. Okay, this is going swimmingly well. Awesome picks. I knew this topic was going to be great. Let's go to the soup round. Shar, what's your number 3 pick?
Eat your soup.
courtesy of a loyal establishment. Jolann True.
All right. My 5 words are: a Klingon scientist seems suspicious. Hashtag, you can't batleth to warp. So this is Kurak from TNG's Suspicions.
Yes.
I love it.
I love her so much. Just pretty much from the very moment I saw her the first time on the screen, I just thought, okay, Klingon scientist, check. Female Klingon scientist, check. We don't know exactly what she's up to. She could be the good guy. She could be the bad guy. Could be completely neutral. I'm digging this episode. Check. I love her just because she is different. You know, it's not the stereotypical Klingon culture stuff that gets pounded into us with the warrior stuff and the honor stuff. And I've always thought behind every warrior, there has to be someone working on advancing the science and the technology that brings the honor to the Klingon Empire. And she is one of those people. And so it was very nice to see that represented in TNG to my 10-year-old self who just thought, okay, it's about time and I'm here for it. I mean, how else did Klingons get to space if they weren't also advancing scientifically? You can't just be fighting your way and conquering through those means. So, I mean, if there was a way, I'm sure the Klingons would find it. But no, there had to be some Klingons out there who weren't completely focused on that. And Daniel, this is one reason why I'm loving your pick so much, is because you're focusing on the so-called outliers.
Yeah.
Who are different. And Kurak is also different in this sense.
Yeah, she is so great because she's purely Klingon. She's totally Klingon in attitudes and her aggression,
no doubt,
and the way she behaves. But she's a scientist. And again, this is like a huge world building Klingon. Kurak is definitely on my secondary systems.
Yeah. And you want to think she's the bad guy because she's the Klingon. Well, not necessarily. Played by Trisha O'Neill, no less, and who played Captain Garrett in Yesterday's Enterprise, among many other roles.
Yeah, she's amazing. She also played a Cardassian. She's incredible as Rachel Garrett and incredible as Kurak. I love it. Daniel, what's your take?
She was on my list for a long time because she perfectly fits my prime directive of these, stereotype breaking. I mean, that whole episode, again, you've got a Ferengi scientist as well. It's a great attempt to rehabilitate a lot of the imagery, I think, of these monocultural species. But yeah, she's a really, really great pick, for all the reasons you said, that she's smart and she's not any less of a Klingon. She's not like, I don't fit in Klingon society because I just love books. She's like, she can handle a batleth, but she's also a genius of warp field technology. So she's really, really great.
That's going to be my new kind of barometer. Like, well, she can handle a batleth too. So, or it's a character who's kind of breaking the mold, but can still kick your ass with a batleth or a mechleth. I love it. Daniel, what's your round 3 pick?
Okay, I am going back to Deep Space Nine for a one-off Klingon who, in terms of screen time, possibly the shortest ever appearance of a one-off Klingon character. 5 words and a hashtag: a different kind of death. Hashtag memory wipe restores honor. This is Rodek, son of Nogra, or is it?
Whoa.
Better known as Kern, brother of Worf. Deep Space Nine season 4.
Okay.
You've got to be kidding me right now.
Hold on.
No.
It is also my round 3 pick. Hold on. I can't even believe this. 5 words and a hashtag. House of Nogra replaces Moog. Hashtag Mokhtar ritual. It's Rodek, the son of Nogra.
That's amazing.
I can't believe we both picked him, and I can't believe we both did it in the Super Round back to back. This is unbelievable.
It would have to be in the Super Round, but I thought I was so clever for doing this. Like,
and by the way, Daniel, so did I. I thought I was so clever.
Oh, no way.
Great minds. That's
amazing. Wow.
So give your breakdown of him, because I love this pick.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't have to persuade you that if we regard Rodek,
no, it's totally cheating. We're both cheating.
No, it's not.
Okay, all right.
If we regard Rodek as a fundamentally different person than Kern, then this is a one-off Klingon. But yeah, I mean, this episode is one of many great Klingon episodes by Ron D. Moore. it's, the last story of Kurn, and I love Kurn. Tony Todd is always, Tony Todd in season 4 of Deep Space Nine. I mean, are these the greatest performances any guest star ever gives? I think possibly. You can count this and The Visitor together. Obviously, what happens. Kurn is at his lowest point. He just wants to die. He wants Worf to go through this Moktavar ritual. It doesn't work out. There's a moment in the middle of the episode where Kurn is one of Odo's deputies. And I so wanted that to be the new status quo. Like, I knew in my heart of hearts it wasn't going to happen, but I was like, can this please be a regular thing? Like, Kurn and Garak and Nog having lunch together every day. And like, can this be this be every episode? And of course that doesn't happen. But I hoped anyway. And then we get Jadzia Dax with her most controversial ever suggestion, a way to kill your brother without killing him. And then I think the thing that makes it controversial is this is without Kern's knowledge or consent, because he's passed out drunk. And technically his final words, I think, are incredibly moving. He tells Worf that he wishes they'd been raised together, which is as close as I think a Klingon can come to saying, I love you in this family way. It's really, really sweet. And then of course his memory is erased by Julian. And again, the ethics of this are a bit questionable. And then if we get philosophical, will Kurn go to Sto-vo-kor because that's all he wants? Well, I think he won't, because he hasn't died. He's ceased to exist, and that's different. And there's a profound theme here about, Klingon values, Federation ethics. I'm left wondering which we're supposed to think is more humane. But really, I like this episode because it's bold, it's provocative. I love episodes of Trek that, continue to inspire ethical debate decades later. And this character is a great example of that. He really makes us think about what is Klingon identity, what are Klingon values, what is Klingon culture. So my super clever that no one else would ever think of in a million years cheat answer is Rodek, son of Nogra. So there you go. Great minds think alike.
A fantastic pick. So I'll just pick it up with the ethics and the controversy. I totally get. It's highly questionable kind of how it's portrayed in terms of how the decision goes down with Worf deciding it and Kurn not giving his consent. But I'm just going to put my personal values on it, and just in the end, when I'm all said and done, appreciating the controversy, I think it's beautiful, because the thought of him having to just quit his life because of the consequences that were brought down on him by Worf, because Kern's just a Klingon, man. Everything he's an incredible character through TNG and Deep Space Nine. Everything he's done, and he says it multiple times in this episode, is just pure-hearted Klingon. He's one of the best Klingons in Trek history. He's loyal to the Klingon way. Doesn't matter if they're right or wrong. He does things by the Klingon book. And, basically Worf comes through for him. He performs the Moktavar ritual and kills him. Worf comes through, and for that moment, Kurn says, for that moment, you were Klingon.
Yeah.
When you stabbed me in the chest. But then Worf realizes I can't do it. And Kern's basically saying, listen, I've lost everything because of you. So you own my life now. And basically he just has to quit. He's just going to die and without any honor. So Kern wasn't going to go to Sto-vo-kor anyway at that point. So anyway, the thought of him dying in disgrace because of his beliefs and Klingon way just makes me sad, but the thought of him learning a new way to live with Nogra makes me really happy.
Who am I? Your name is Rodek. You are my son. You're part of the House of Nogra, a small but proud family. So don't worry. I will teach you all that you have forgotten when we get home.
I understand, Father. Who are you? I am Worf.
Are you part of my family?
I have no family.
I love the ending, and I love that Rodek gets a chance to have a life. So really, really, really underrated freaking episode of Star Trek. Shar, what's your take on this one?
My goodness, what more is there to say that you guys didn't already cover? I think because of the whole ethical questions surrounding this whole thing, I think you get a pass on the phasers, guys. You're good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, when there's questionable ethics involved, I think that's a pass.
You made the great point, Daniel, that it's a new character at the end.
Yeah, and what a way for one of the most memorable Klingons in Trek to go out. I mean, I never would have thought of it.
Yeah, incredible. All right, let's go to round 2. Shar, what's your number 2 pick?
Okay, here is where I might have cheated. So get those disruptors ready.
More cheating.
My 5 words are: facing your demons is hard. Hashtag you killed Jersh.
Oh my God, this pick.
It's the fully Klingon B'Elanna from Faces in Voyager.
I love this pick so much. And I love your, hold on, I just need to comment. Your imitation was spectacular. And I will comment on this in a minute when I'm giving my thoughts. So
it was, yeah. I could hear the prosthetic teeth in your mouth as you gave that line reading. I could absolutely
Every time I hear somebody do a review when they don't know the behind the scenes reason why the fully Klingon B'Elanna talks kind of like Shelley from South Park. Right. You know, what's your taHjaj? Kind of sounds like that. It's because of the teeth. They were completely different than what Roxanne Dawson was used to. So I think it gives the Klingon B'Elanna a little more character. Honestly, I like it. So anyway, I hope this isn't a cheat because B'Elanna is a main character, but this is like the one time we see a fully Klingon version of her. And I had to go for it because of the way this experience impacts B'Elanna. Because one of her big issues is the fact that she's half human, half Klingon. She struggles with what that means and her identity. And even though she never fully overcomes it, this is our big introduction to it. And she does work through a lot of things in this episode as a result of being completely separated, where she's completely human in one body and then completely Klingon in the other, and realizes her Klingon side, as much as it gives her trouble, is also not completely bad. And I think that's a great message for those of us who maybe struggle with some inner demons, things that we don't like about ourselves. They're a part of us. They're what we have. How we use them is more important than anything. And it's better to work with it than to just try and pretend like they don't exist.
Spectacular. I know Daniel will have comments on that because he loves Torres, and that's a great breakdown of kind of what this episode represents for her. I love this pick. The episode is really interesting to me with the Durst stuff, like you mentioned, and I get lost in this episode with the split between the two because of the weird performance of the teeth.
Does it take you out of it?
I think it does because it's an early season episode, and it's the classic Trek trope of split characters, which is totally down for because that's happened a million times. But then the teeth come into play, and I always just kind of I just start thinking about that and nothing else. But I love Roxanne Dawson as the human too. And the Durst stuff is just so good.
So creepy.
And your impersonation was so good. Daniel, what's your take on this one with Doris?
I mean, I totally sympathize, Jim. I mean, you know, I love this episode, but it's undeniably cheesy. It literalizes the theme in like a very TOS style, very direct way.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. But I mean, it's like the 6th episode, right? It's like
it's really early to do that.
Yeah. It's fairly close to the end, season 1.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Well, yeah. I mean, I really like the Vidians, actually. I think Sulan is a great character, and he's what he does. Although he's like this kind of weird, creepy Dr. Frankenstein kind of character. He is trying to cure the phage, so he gets a pass from me.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, you know, the idea of B'Elanna, there's often a theme, I think, with Klingon characters about, like with Worf. Like, Worf thinks he wants to be more Klingon, like he wants to really be in the Klingon Empire. And then he goes on a Klingon ship and everyone's too loud and there's no prune juice. And like, you know, and like B'Elanna thinks that she wants to just be human. and then she gets her wish and she hates it, and she can't actually live like that. So it's this kind of, be careful what you wish for, because you don't actually want what you think you want. And it does come a bit early, I think, in her character arc for this to have really, really be effective. But it makes the point really well, I think, about as you said, Char, her needing to accept that being half Klingon is a positive aspect of her identity.
I think in the end, when you look at the whole context, this episode totally works when you watch from the B'Elanna Torres storyline with her challenges. So bottom line, this is a fantastic pick, Char, and I'm so glad you picked it. There's another one similar to this that I'm wondering if it's on your list or in your secondary systems, but it will come up later. It was definitely one that I thought, I bet Char's going to pick this.
We'll see.
Okay, Daniel, what's your number 2 pick?
Okay, one of the things that I'm really pleased by so far this episode is how much Voyager we're covering.
So much.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, 5 words and a hashtag. True faith in the journey. Hashtag they came from the other direction. This is Captain Kolar, the captain of the Klingon generation ship from Voyager Season 7, Prophecy.
Oh, nice. The captain, yes.
The Captain Kolar, yeah.
Yeah,
I thought about him too.
Yep.
Yeah,
I had to go with tlhIngan.
Well, I mean, your picks are really good one too. But I've always found this episode so compelling. The idea that a Klingon ship has been on this generations-long pilgrimage from the Alpha Quadrant to the Delta Quadrant. They meet Voyager coming back the other way. It's just from that premise, it's already such a strong idea. And I mean, it's really a B'Elanna episode, right? It's about her finding a greater degree of acceptance of her Klingon heritage. But it's also really about Klingon religion, spirituality. The captain of the ship, he's really not like other Klingon leaders we've seen. He's gentle, he's thoughtful, profoundly devout in his spiritual beliefs. Mm-hmm. He's got this, commitment to scripture, quite a literal interpretation of scripture that leads him to making these really bold decisions without hesitation. He blows up his own ship. He completely puts his life in the hands of Janeway and the crew of the Voyager. His initial antagonism to the Federation is very, very quickly brushed aside because I think he values faith over strength. And that's something I think few Klingons would admit to.
Well said.
I've always thought the Klingons were actually one of the most spiritual civilizations in Trek. I mean, I think at least as religious as the Bajorans are. So it's good to see a strong, empathetic leader who's governed by his faith, I think. And it's just, this episode just really sparks my imagination. I want 7 seasons of this ship, on its adventures through the Delta Quadrant, or a series of novels or something. There's so much that I would love. Like, how do they deal with meeting a new species or encounter? Put them in the position that Voyager's in some episodes. I'd love to see how they handle it. So it's one of my favorite episodes of Voyager, and without doubt my most rewatched. I've seen it more times than I can count because I love it so much.
That's interesting. So I figured Prophecy was going to get some play because it's such a great Klingon episode.
It's so good, yeah.
And I always just love every time they say Kuvama. She's the mother of the Kuvama. So, it's great. What's your take on Captain Kolar, Char?
Well, I'm with you, Dan. I really want to see maybe some short treks or a novel series that focuses on this crew's journey, just to do a little bit of compare and contrast. What did they see in the Delta Quadrant? What was it like for them? How did they approach the situation? I would love to know. That would be so cool. But I love this pick. I thought about putting him on my list as well, because he is such a balanced leader. He's not just out to shoot and kill everything, you know what I mean? And there's a very good examination of Klingon spirituality in this episode. You're right about that. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's kind of a nice little grab bag of a lot of things in Klingon culture. You get the spirituality. We do get a little bit of a duel. We get some wild, kinky sex. And it's so much fun. I love Prophecy because when you first see that old style Klingon,
that D7,
you're just, what in the world are you doing out here? No way. You would never think about that being on Voyager. So immediately it's a hook.
Yeah, amazing. All right. Well, if you had told me we were going to have an all Voyager round on this topic, I would not have believed you, but we're about to have one. And all right. I love this topic because it just made me do this deep dive into One-Off Klingons. And when I remembered this guy, because I was just brainstorming, I went, wait, and as soon as I remembered this guy, I just remember thinking how cool he was, how very Klingon he was. It's a great episode. And I rewatched it in preparation for this, and I love it more than ever before. And I love this character. He's fantastic. 5 words in a hashtag. One badass Klingon XB. Hashtag Unimatrix Klingon. Yes. And it's General Korak from Unimatrix Zero.
Nice.
I mean, at first when he shows up in a couple of times early on in the episode in the Unimatrix Zero, he's very stereotypical Klingon. He's barking orders. He doesn't want Seven's help, and you kind of figure he's just there to kind of fill that trope, and he's going to have maybe a super important role other than just being the stereotypical Klingon. But my favorite part of this episode is at the end when the Voyager crew has unleashed the nanovirus on Unimatrix Zero. So the drones are going there in their dreams, and they're going to stay self-aware now when they wake up on their Borg ships. And Chakotay and the crew are they're still trying to rescue Janeway, Tuvok, and Torres back from the Borg Queen. And they're in the thick of it, and this transwarp conduit opens, and it's a Borg sphere, and they cut to General Korak as a full Borg Klingon, and he's in command of this ship, and he's coming in hot to help Voyager, and the whole scene is just really, really cool. They end up fighting together. He's just a great Klingon, and I'd love to see more of this Klingon XB who's still out there somewhere in the Delta Quadrant flying around in a Borg sphere that he took over. Just some classic stuff. And I made note of this one amazing line, classic Klingon line he has to Seven when they're fighting together, and he can see that she's distracted because of her feelings for the guy Axum. And Korak says, some advice from a warrior in the bedchamber as well as the battlefield. At times like these, you must treat your heart as the enemy so you won't be distracted in battle. I just love that. Advice from a warrior in the bedchamber as well as the battlefield. This guy. I love Korak. Daniel, what's your take?
I completely second everything you just said. I also want to see. I assume he's going to now go around various, Borg outposts in the Delta Quadrant, just tearing everything up with his sphere. It's just raining hell and fire down on every Borg that he sees, and you're really being agitated for the Borg Queen. Again, I want to see that story. I'd love to see where that goes. I love him in Unimatrix 01, and when he's giving Seven that romantic advice. And there's one moment where she's worried about Axum, right? And so she goes to see him, and then she has to cover for why she's looking for him. And she says, "Oh, Korak was worried about you."
Oh,
and he does this little smile because he knows, no, he's not. I know that.
The guy says, Axum says, that doesn't sound like Korak.
Yeah, it was. I really love the. I suppose what the Unimatrix does is it brings all these people together who would not otherwise have any kind of common cause. These very gentle, scholarly characters that are Klingon warrior and Seven of Nine, who are all absolutely united as a single team against the collective. It's a really sweeping, stirring episode of, I think, rebellion and self-determination, and Korak's a really fun part of that.
How about you, Shar?
This is a great pick. Didn't think about it, and I too want to see his adventures out there, just going around, wreaking havoc, shooting things up. Maybe you could package it as sort of a Jackass-esque spin-off where he creatively finds ways to just destroy things and make it look really fun. I'd watch it.
He could meet up with Seven and the Fenris Rangers.
Yeah.
And,
right. Those two.
Do some XB stuff. I love it.
Oh man.
And by the way, his makeup as a Klingon Borg is really impressive.
I wanted to mention that.
Cool. Yeah.
It's super cool, that merging of Klingon and Borg look. Oh man.
Yeah, really, really cool. Okay, let's do it. Round one. Shar, what's your number one pick?
Oh my gosh, we're here. Okay. My 5 words are, don't let it end this way. #the future. My pick is Chancellor Gorkon in Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country.
I love it.
Absolutely the best possible choice. Excellent. I love it. Jim's favorite Star Trek film, if you didn't know.
Yeah, man. I mean, I had a difficult time deciding which movie era Klingons I wanted to put in this list because there's quite a few to choose from. I mean, I think I mentioned earlier, you could make a whole list of your top 5 one-off movie Klingons. And I went with Gorkon because of how different he was from other Klingons like Krug and Claw. And he sees the bigger picture of what is ahead for his people and realizes that just blowing things up and trying to conquer is not going to be the answer. And he opts for peace, ends up paying the ultimate price for that. And I just really like his character. He's got a very nice, calming demeanor. He's trying to be graceful in a very uncomfortable situation with the whole dinner scene and things like that. But he genuinely believes that what he's doing is the right thing. So he had to be my number 1 pick.
I'm glad you picked him, as he genuinely believes in what he's doing. He's still a Klingon. He's still true to Klingon, but he absolutely believes in this movement and he wants it to succeed and he's going to do what it takes.
Yeah.
Until he gets murdered.
Yes.
But yes, Chancellor Gorkon, a legend. Awesome pick. Daniel, what's your take?
Yeah, I mean, he was very, very nearly my number 1 pick as well, because Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, is my favorite Star Trek film. I think it's incredibly profound. He's a great character. He's open-minded. He's forward-thinking. You know, he wants what's best for his people, even if they don't recognize that as being what's best for them. And what's interesting about Gorkon is, you know, he's only really got like one major scene in the film. He's not actually in it that much. It's really just the dinner scene. And then he's dead. But he leaves such a strong impression from very little screen time. And yeah, he's a fantastic character.
You know, it's just David Warner's presence. Such a good actor. So impressive. Yeah, I mean, that's just such a memorable character. You're right. He's only in it for a real short time, but he makes an impact. All right, Daniel, what's your number 1 pick?
Number 1 pick in an amazing example of further synergy between the 3 of us. 5 words and a hashtag. All warriors are cold warriors. Hashtag cry havoc.
Cry havoc! And let's slip the dogs of war.
Yes.
This is General Chang, the murderer of Shah's number 1 pick.
I love it.
Thank you, Daniel. I wanted so bad to do Chang and Gorkon, and I couldn't.
Me too. And to be honest, Gorkon kind of fits my Prime Directive more. He's more of he breaks a stereotype more, but Christopher Plummer is just so good. I mean, Star Trek VI, whatever you think of it, I mean, you have to admit it's got the best guest cast, right, of any Trek film. Kim Cattrall as Valeris, Plummer as Chang, David Warner as Gorkon. They are all so phenomenal in their roles. I mean, absolutely brilliant. And yeah, I love the film. It takes, you know, the original series theme of, you know, the Klingons representing the communist threat of the Cold War, and it pushes it really as far as it can possibly go. And I think says, we're not going to do this anymore, and kind of ends it there. And you have, you know, like Gorkon is supposed to be Gorbachev in some ways. And then Chang represents, I guess, the hard line who don't want peace, refusing to, you know, evolve and adapt to new times. But he is in some ways, he is like a typical movie Klingon villain. He's the bad guy. He just wants to destroy the Enterprise and kill all the humans he sees. But he's dignified. He's intelligent. Yeah. He's almost kind of scholarly.
Yep.
You know, quoting Shakespeare while gleefully attacking from a cloaked bird of prey. It's absolutely iconic. It really, really is. Every scene he's in, he's absolutely, you know, magnetic. The dinner, the trial. You know, don't wait for the translation. Answer me now. It's so good.
Yes.
And he's a compelling villain because he doesn't think of himself as the bad guy. He would say he's a patriot. He would say that he's saving the Empire from a misguided peace treaty. And just like Gorkon, he wants what's best for his people. It's just that he interprets that in a very different way. And Undiscovered Country is hands down my favorite Star Trek film, and I think its portrayal of Klingon politics, different kinds of Klingon leadership, is just fantastic. I love it.
A perfect 1-2 punch with Gorkon.
Yeah, that was really good.
I am so excited. My absolute favorite thing about the Undiscovered Country is Gorkon and Chang and the Klingons and all the intrigue there, and the only Nixon could go to China. I love all that stuff. It's fantastic. Shar, any thoughts on Chang?
Oh, so many. Like I said, I really wanted to put him on the list, but I figured that would be just a little bit of Star Trek 6 overkill, even though I love the movie and just what it meant at the time, but also just what it still means.
Right.
Because I don't think we've moved on from those times as much as we'd like to think. It's a really important story and very well told. And Chang has so many memorable lines in the movie. He is such a good villain because, as you said, he believes in what he is doing. He's doing what he thinks is the right thing for what he believes are the right reasons. So that makes for good storytelling. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
And he's dangerous. He's got the cloaked bird of prey. He is conspiring with members of the Federation and the Romulan Empire to take this whole thing down. I mean, that's huge.
And as Daniel said, he thinks he's the hero, which always makes for the best villains. Incredible performance from Christopher Plummer. And you're right, Daniel. I mean, hard to argue against this not being the best guest cast.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Of pretty much any film. So good. Okay, let's close it out with my number one pick. We do have an all TOS round to close it out, which is quite fitting.
Hey.
And my 5 words in a hashtag, we talked about her before, a warrior and a scientist. Hashtag the brains behind Kang. And it's Mara from the Day of the Dove. And
awesome.
Yeah, I mean, she was really always going to be my number one pick. The one thing I'll add, we talked about her in really, really good detail when Daniel picked her, is I have this headcanon that she is, well, I mean, I think it's more than headcanon. I think it's very likely that I just love that she connects to Deep Space Nine as the mother of Kang's son, who was named after Dax, Curzon Dax, and who was murdered by the albino for the backstory of Blood Oath. And I just remember the first time I watched Blood Oath, watching that, thinking, oh, that's Mara's son is named Dax? That's so cool. I love those connections. I'm always making them. She's just a brilliant character. She expanded really the first real world building expansion of the Klingons, I think, in a way that kind of Ron Moore jumped on and added to their legacy in TNG. So Mara, any other quick final thoughts on Mara, Shar, or Daniel?
She deserves to be a duplicate in this episode.
Yeah, well put. Yeah. I don't think I mentioned her amazing eyeliner when I talked about her.
So good.
Oh, yeah.
Which is one of the most striking things about her. And when they brought Kang back for the Voyager flashback episode with Captain Sulu, it's a shame she wasn't on the bridge of Kang's ship next to him. I would have loved to have seen her.
That would have been cool.
Yeah.
Modernized and updated. That would have been amazing. I do kind of wish that she'd been there, but I get why she wasn't.
She is the actress is Susan Howard, who I believe still with us. So that's a great call. That would have been cool. Okay, let's get into some secondary systems picks. Shar, what's on your list?
Let's see what you can do with the secondary systems.
Okay. Well, I have another Star Trek 6 mention, which had to go to Azabur.
Oh, yeah.
Just because I think she gets about as much screen time, I think, as her father, Gorkon.
She's great. She's great.
Oh, man. So many Klingons in the movies. And I have to give special mention to my wild card, who very easily could have made this list in any rank at any moment and could have been subject to change while we were recording. And that is Krug in Star Trek 3, played by Christopher Lloyd, who did a fantastic job of playing what I think to be a very classic Klingon villain.
Yeah.
I mean, he and the makeup really shaped Klingons as we knew them, for who knows how many years going forward, really defined what Klingons were and what they looked like and the culture and how they acted and all of that. He was very ruthless, and that made for an interesting journey in Star Trek 3 where he orders Kirk's son to be killed and fights to the death with Kirk. I mean, he just doesn't give up till the very end.
I have had enough of you.
It takes lava to kill him.
So great. I mean, he's awesome. All right. Any more, Char?
No, I'll stop there.
All right. Daniel, rattle some off, man.
Okay. I mean, a couple of them have been said. I had Kurak on my list. I had Zetbur again on my list. Worf's grandfather, the Klingon lawyer who defends Kirk and McCoy and stuff.
Good pick.
Really cool. That's a good one.
A couple of really good one-off Klingons from Enterprise. One of them is Kolos, who's played by J.G. Hertzler, who gives one of the best speeches when he says, Klingons didn't used to be like this. My mother's a biologist, my dad's a teacher, and now all we can. I mean, I've quoted that speech in my lectures on Klingons because it's so good for deepening our understanding of Klingon culture. Antak, the biologist who kidnaps flocks to try and cure this virus. Klar and Vixis from Star Trek 5, they're both really cool, well-muscled villains.
He's got wonderful muscles.
Well-muscled, well said.
I did think about putting Miral on my list.
I did too.
I think we all did, but she falls into that baby category too, like Tenevik. She appeared as a baby in Lineage, and then obviously Endgame. She's amazing.
Well, I've just bamboozled both of you because I meant the mother.
Oh,
we see on Barge of the Dead.
Barge of the Dead.
Come on,
yes. I had both on
Mirage.
I had both on my list. I'm looking at it right now, right below it. Played by Karen Austin, who's amazing.
The lady Surella, who is kind of a really quite unpleasant character at first, and only really is kind of redeemed by the end of the episode, I think.
Yeah, that's why I didn't pick her.
I really liked when Alexander comes from the future under the name Kuntar to try to inspire. But that again, that would be a cheat, I think.
Yeah,
kind of a not cheat. And then my last pick that I was nearly going to have on my list as another egregious cheat. I was going to have Worf, Governor of Hatoria. The version of Worf that we see in All Good Things.
All Good Things, yeah.
That's good. The version of him only appears once.
I love it.
And again, this is one of those points where Worf gets what he wants and he hates it. Like he finally got a position in the Klingon Empire, and it's the crappiest job he could possibly have, and he's absolutely miserable. So I would have talked about that if that had been on my list. But I thought I can't have Rodek. I can't have Kern and Worf on my list of one-off Klingons. That would be too much cheating. So yeah, that's pretty much all my secondary systems.
All right, I'm glad you mentioned that one. That would have been a good cheat. I had my toughest cut was Korath von Armstrong. I really love him, and I almost picked Krass from Friday's Child, the Klingon in that episode. He's a legit Klingon. He doesn't get nearly enough love for me. He's right there with Kang, Koloth, and Kor. He's really just a classic conniving Klingon. And I was going to pick Korak for the longest time, and then I realized he's the garbage cow Klingon from Trouble with Tribbles. But technically he's in More Troubles, More Tribbles, and Trials and Tribulations. So he's in 3. So I was like, I can't push it that far. For my fantastic guest stars, I had Stephen Root, who played a Klingon in Unification. Everybody knows the actor Stephen Root. Even if you don't know the name, look it up. He's fantastic. And then James Worthy, the basketball player in Gambit as Corral, like the 7-foot Klingon. I really like Takuvma, so I thought about him. And then I had Corinne from Lower Decks, the episode Envoy.
I thought about that too.
That would have been a good one.
I love him. And then my special shout out, this is the one I mentioned before, Char. I really thought there was a decent chance of you picking Janeway as a Klingon in the opening of The Killing Game.
That would have been very cool, but no, I did not think about it. Darn it.
Technically, Janeway as a Klingon dies, right, in the opening of the Killing Game and then gets resuscitated. So
that would have been a good pick.
That would have been a good cheat for a one-off Klingon. All right, amazing.
I had to go for B'Elanna instead.
Yeah, that's good too. Yes. All right, amazing topic. I knew we would get deep into this. Time to get into our regeneration cycle now and go through some recap of our picks and some stats.
Computer, activate regeneration cycle. Alcoves beta and gamma.
Okay, Shar, recap your amazing list.
Okay, number 5 is Chirega from Voyager's Prophecy. Number 4 is the Klingon captain, played by Mark Leonard in Star Trek The Motion Picture. Number 3 is Kurok from TNG's Suspicions. Number 2 is the fully Klingon B'Elanna in Voyager's Faces. And number 1 is Chancellor Gorkon in Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country.
B'Elanna in Faces is such a good pick. So you had 2 TOS, 2 Voyagers, and 1 TNG. Daniel, how about you?
Yeah, so round 5, I had Korath from Voyager's Endgame. Round 4, I had Mara from TOS Day of the Dove. Round 3, I had Rodek from Deep Space Nine Season 4 Sons of Moog. Round 2, I had Captain Kolar from Voyager's Prophecy. And in round 1, I had General Chang from The Undiscovered Country.
Fantastic. So you had 2 from TOS and 2 from Voyager as well, and then 1 from Deep Space Nine. Yeah. And my number 5 was Tenavik from Through the Valley of the Shadows Discovery. Number 4 was the Worf's Klingon Descendants and Children of Time from Deep Space Nine. Number 3 was Rodek from Sons of Moog. Number 2, General Korak from Unimatrix Zero Voyager. And my number 1 pick from TOS Day of the Dove is Mara, Kang's wife and the science officer. Love her. So I had 2 from Deep Space Nine and then 1 each from Discovery, Voyager, and TOS. And in our statistics breakdown, we had 2 duplicates. We had, I wanted to see how many ridged Klingons versus smooth forehead Klingons. And we had 12 ridges and 3 generally smooth-headed Klingons. And the men-women breakdown was 10 men and 5 women, which is actually a pretty good breakdown based on what we've seen in the series. And our series breakdown is pretty interesting. Nothing from Enterprise, Kelvin Timeline, or Lower Decks or Picard. 1 from TNG and 1 from Discovery. And then 3 from Deep Space Nine. And leading the way with 5 each was Voyager and TOS. So definitely interesting that Voyager ended up with 5. But maybe it kind of makes sense because if a Klingon appears in Voyager, it's likely going to be a one-off.
Yeah. Into the format,
True.
Yeah. So maybe that does make sense. All right. Awesome discussion. Thanks, guys. As we do every week, we've been hit by temporal distortions. So before we can depart, it's time to hear from you.
The temporal distortions are fracturing space-time throughout the ship. Cause?
Unknown.
We know the cause, Mr. Tuvok, all that amazing feedback that we continue to receive from our listeners here at TrekRanks. And this week's temporal distortion has sent us back to a very recent episode. It's episode 109, our top 5 TOS Guilty Pleasure episodes, which was a super popular show that we did just a few weeks ago. Got an awesome voicemail from our friend of the show, Heather Kirby, who's at NerdyGirl33, and I loved her pick. It's going to play that for you now.
What's up, TrekRanks? This is Heather Kirby. You can find me on Twitter at NerdyGal33. And I'm a long-time listener, occasional guest, first-time voicemail leaver. I love my guilty pleasures, and I wanted to send in my list of top 5 TOS guilty pleasures. It goes from least guilty to the most guiltiest of guilty. So at number 5, bad uniforms but great sci-fi, #V'ger seeks the creator. It is the motion picture. I love it. If you don't, you know where to find me. Number 4, who doesn't want to find paradise? hashtag space hippies. That would be the way to Eden. Number 3, Chapel finds her lost love. Hashtag phallic rock. It is what our little girl's made of. I absolutely love Majel Barrett, and I think Christine Chapel is one of the most underappreciated characters of Trek, so there was no way this episode could not make my list. Number 2, Shakespeare belongs in Star Trek. Hashtag it's all connected. The episode is the conscience of the king, and like Caleb mentioned in your episode, this also connects back to a Discovery novel that Dayton Ward wrote called Drastic Measures, in which Lorca is actually on the planet when Kodos murdered half the population. I love Discovery. I love those connections, and it made me appreciate this episode. And number 1, the most guiltiest of guilty pleasures, Janet Lester and her righteous anger. Hashtag never make a woman angry. It is the turnabout intruder. Yes, I said it. Yes, I picked it, Jim. I love this episode. I know the story itself is not that great, but there's something very relatable about Janet Lester to me. And it's a discussion that is too much for a voicemail, but I love it. I picked it. Thank you for listening. Bye, guys.
All right. Love that voicemail from Heather, especially her giving some TOS Guilty Pleasure shout outs to Majel Barrett and Christine Chapel with What Our Little Girl's Made Of, and then Conscience of the King with the Discovery connection. And her number 1 pick was Turnabout Intruder with Janice Lester and her righteous anger, which is really kind of an amazing pick. But she defends it well, and it makes a lot of sense. All right. Once again, those picks more than enough to clear us from this week's Temporal Distortion. So as always, I want to thank everyone for all the great responses to the TrekRanks podcast. Please keep your list coming to me at TrekRanks on Twitter so we can retweet them. But we also want to hear from you. So put together your own list of top 5 one-off Klingons or a list from any of our past shows. Give us a call at the Tricorder Transmissions at 609-512-5527. At 609-512-LLAP, or you can just send me a DM, link me to a recording. That works too. Hopefully we'll hear from you so you can be featured on the next episode of TrekRanks. And on the next episode of TrekRanks, we have an awesome topic for you. I can't wait. It's kind of a crazy one. So this is the first time in 112 episodes of TrekRanks that we're just doing a straight up choose your top 5 episodes of Star Trek without really any qualifiers except one, and that qualifier is since 2009. It's your top 5 Kurtzman era episodes of Star Trek. So we have all of the Kelvin timeline, Discovery, Short Decks, Picard, Lower Decks, all that to choose from. And I really wanted to get this episode in. That's 75 episodes of Star Trek, by the way, in the Kurtzman era of Trek. I wanted to get this episode in before all this new Star Trek's coming. We're going to have about 50 weeks of Star Trek coming with new seasons of Prodigy, Lower Decks, Discovery, Strange New Worlds, and Picard. So I want to get this topic in under the buzzer. So, Shar and Daniel, if you had to pick one episode from the Kurtzman era of Trek that you would put on the top of your list or in the top 5 of your list, what would it be, Shar?
Oh, man.
One. You only get to pick one. I know this is hard.
This hurts so much. You know what? No, I'm going to get my money's worth on this pick, and I'm going to pick Star Trek Beyond.
Yes, it's such a good pick.
I want 2 hours of Trek.
It's just so good. It's going to be hard to keep off my list. I got to be honest. Daniel,
I love that movie.
How about you? Me too. Daniel, if you had to pick one that's going to be on your top 5.
That's a really hard question.
I know. It's why we've never done this topic. This is why we don't do this kind of topic, because it's just, hey, pick your top 5 episodes with no qualifier. So it's a tough one.
It's going to be a really good one. I guess, I can't say it would be my number 1, but I would definitely have in my top 5 somewhere Magic to Make the Sanest Men Go Mad in Discovery's first season.
Yeah.
So worthy.
That was where I felt like Discovery's I was like, this is like really good Trek. Like this is as good as Trek has ever been. That was to me the turning point where it just got so good, and so rewatchable as well. That episode, I really, really enjoy it.
Yeah, it came right on the heels of Lethe, another really strong contender.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
Yes.
Both of them kind of got into that. Oh yeah, these are kind of standalone episodes too. These really work alone. So yeah, this is going to be a fun topic. I cannot wait to do it. All right, so to wrap it up, a huge thanks to Charlynn Schmiedt and Daniel Martin. Great to have you guys on the show.
I was wondering if you could show me how to access these subspace communications logs.
And we're going to do that right now, Neelix. So any final Trek subspace communications, either one of you guys want to relay before we depart? Char.
Oh, golly gee whiz. Well, you know how to get in touch with me on both of my Twitter accounts now.
The profanity.
The profanity. Char writes code for the nerdy coding stuff. And if you're into Babylon 5, check out the Zocalo. It's a live vidcast that I do with Norman Lau of Mission Log fame. And we discuss all things related to the show Babylon 5.
Your Babylon 5 love is renowned, and I love that. Daniel, how about you, man? Thanks for coming on and making it work.
Thank you. I mean, I've had a really, really good time having this conversation. I've loved everyone's picks. I guess I'm just going to, if anyone's still listening, I'll plug TrekRanks episode 10, which is also about a really fun discussion about Klingons it's a really, really good one, I think. It's a really good vibe in that episode. So go back and listen to that for some good appreciation of Yeah, it's really cool. You know, when you're talking about Star Trek 3 and everything, I was laughing a lot. it's a good episode.
I love it. All right. Well, you guys both crushed it. I want to thank everyone again for engaging with us here on episode 112 of the TrekRanks podcast. As always, I want to close by saying I'm looking forward to standing with you again here in this place where I belong.
Captain Kirk's views and motives are indeed at the very heart of the matter. This officer's record shows him to be an insubordinate, unprincipled, career-minded opportunist with a history of violating the chain of command whenever it suited him. Continue. Indeed, the record shows that Captain Kirk once held the rank of Admiral, and that Admiral Kirk was broken for taking matters into his own hands in defiance of regulations of the law. Do you deny being demoted for these charges? Don't wait for the translation! Answer me now!
I cannot deny it.
You were demoted?
Yes.
For insubordination?
On occasion, I have disobeyed orders.
Just want to remind everyone again that the entire TrekRanks catalog is available for you to download and listen to at TrekRanks.com and on your podcast player of choice. Our episodes never get carbon dated, so check out the topics you've missed and maybe just want to listen to again over at TrekRanks.com. And a reminder to check out our friends 5-Year Mission at 5yearmission.net. They're writing a song for every episode of Star Trek, and you won't believe how great their music is. They also have a podcast at the Trek Geeks Network, so seek them out. You won't regret it.
Computer, open this door.
Access to these quarters has been restricted.
On whose authority?
Neelix.
Mr. Neelix, open this door.
I'll be there in a minute, Commander. That's my board.
Computer, security override. Authorization Tuvok. Pi.
Goodbye, my little Parmatka.
Goodbye, my fearless warrior.
I'm really gonna miss her.